Hello and welcome to Torah Unboxed Deep Dive. I'm here with Rabbi Mendel Groner from JNet, and we're ready to go deep. Are you ready?
Yeah. So we just did the Pirkei Avos episode where you reviewed the Pirkei Avos books. So I think that in this format, we'll just discuss a little bit more about what Torah Unboxed is, and then we'll get a little bit more into Pirkei Avos as a whole and our own experiences studying Pirkei Avos.
Awesome. I'm super excited.
So Torah Unboxed started around a year ago with our wonderful host, Rabbi Mendel. Because at JNet, what we do is we help people study Torah, and people are all the time asking for recommendations, what to learn. We do have a resource page on our website, jnet.org/resources, where you can find lots of free material as well as different books that are recommended. But there was no content. There wasn't explanations of why this or this. Like, what if I'm looking for something more easy or more difficult? So that was really the inspiration behind the series,
Right.
and which you've been presenting so well, to explain to every person on each topic what could they find and appealing to their different tastes.
Right. So what's actually very interesting is because, growing up studying Torah my whole life, in yeshiva for many years and so on, I always studied in Hebrew. Like, I would use an English translation for reference, to see a translation of a word, to see a little bit of a different perspective. But I was learning mostly in the original, Hebrew, Gemara, Chumash, Tanya, whatever it was. And once we started doing this Torah Unboxed, so I started researching to see what is out there. And I was pleasantly surprised to see the amount of English translations. And many different translations of a specific book, for example. So we already did Chumash. Chumash was the hardest because there's so many translations. Like, over there I had to basically pick the top ones that we feel our clientele would, and our crowd that's watching would appreciate. But it was still good to see that there's so many books out there, even though you don't know how to learn in the original Hebrew. And you may never know. Obviously, of course, you try to learn in Hebrew to get the original. But for many people, there's no time to learn the Hebrew.
Right.
But there's so much there. You can learn the full quality of the depth of the topic in English.
Right. It's funny because I grew up in Australia, and for me, learning in English was very, very natural. I would usually use Hebrew and English, very rarely just the English. But we had in our yeshiva, we had a whole English library. We had a Hebrew library, which was extensive, and also an English library. So I got very into the English, and I would study. Speaking of Chumash, so it's not really the topic for today when we get into Pirkei Avos, but I would read, I'll do Chitas, Chumash and Rashi, and then I read the English. My father's a rabbi, he would read with the English, Chumash, Rashi. So I don't know, I always found it very natural, and you get a deeper understanding, and not only that, it helps improve your Hebrew learning as well.
Right, of course, because you get a better understanding of both languages.
Exactly.
Right. Look, there's, it's if English is your first language, which it is for most of us, then you should learn a lot in English. I mean, you'll connect better with the topic. You'll gain appreciation and inspiration when it's in English.
Yep. Now, obviously, now that I've gotten older and more, maybe wiser a little bit, I do gravitate towards Hebrew more if something's available in Hebrew as well. Mm-hmm. It just flows easier for me. But I'm still picking. I still have a vast English library, and I'm going back and forth all the time.
Right. Okay. So let's go into the Pirkei Avos because there's a lot we can talk about. So first and foremost, Pirkei Avos. As a kid growing up, I would read it usually. Like, it's in the Siddur. It's a thing we do. Like we spoke about in the book review. It's every Shabbos, Shabbos afternoons. You're sitting there. You're just reading through it, whether you understand 50, 60, 70%. But then when I was 16 years old, I was in yeshiva in Staten Island. That yeshiva recently moved on to Westchester. And I was like, I want to learn Pirkei Avos. So I got myself, I took the Mishnayos Kahati it's in Hebrew, that collects a bunch of different commentaries.
There is the English version, by the way, also.
Really? Yeah. Oh, that's cool. We'll have to add it to the Mishnayos in a future book review. And I spent 30 minutes or something on each parak, and sometimes I was late to the farbrengen, and the mashpia would come by and be like, "Hello, there's a farbrengen now. It's not the time to learn." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm coming." Anyway, so I got a little into trouble. Well, not really, but
you're
whatever.
learning. I'm sure it was fine. You're learning.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm like, I'm learning. Come on. And he says, "No, it's time to farbrengen. Learning is another time." Anyway, that's when I first got more of an appreciation for Pirkei Avos. My father has been giving classes in shiurim on Pirkei Avos for 50 years, close to 50 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's impressive. So he always has this very strong, appreciation and excitement. I actually I discussed a few things with him before I did the book review, which was really nice. So let's talk a little bit about the different options.
That you're bringing up some really interesting things. I'll tell you, I had a similar experience.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons why we learn Pirkei Avos, you didn't mention this in the review, but one of the reasons why we do Pirkei Avos in the summertime is because it's a long afternoon. Shabbos afternoon. Shabbos can end sometimes 7, 8, 9 o'clock. So you have the whole afternoon to learn.
Interesting.
So I always wondered, okay, but mincha always is anyways like very late. It's usually by, shkia, by when it starts getting dark outside. And then you have the same amount of time, winter and summer, to study Pirkei Avos. And not only that, in Australia, think about it. In Australia, it's the other season.
So it's the winter then.
So it's the winter. So we do Pirkei Avos in the winter, the whole winter. It's very funny.
So what about like the whole thing that you do Pirkei Avos because it's warm weather and you...
I don't know. Someone's going to have to answer.
I guess the Australians are constantly spiritually inclined and they don't...
Well, it doesn't get that cold. People are still dressed,
Okay.
But so I had this question. So growing up, I would just do Pirkei Avos, just reading it like everyone else. It's part of davening kind of thing. And I had that guilty feeling, like this makes no sense. Why am I just reading it? When it came to New York and we had the really long summers, and especially COVID time, this is when I got really into it, was during COVID. Yeah, anyways, got nothing to do. The whole Shabbos afternoon,
right?
I would do Pirkei Avos. I would daven mincha early, And then I'm like, why am I daven mincha early? Like the fact that this whole mincha between mincha and ma'ariv thing, I don't think it's like you have to do it between mincha and ma'ariv. If you have time after your meal before mincha to do Pirkei Avos, and you have 3-4 hours to sit and read one of these books and read it cover to cover, each parak, you don't have to wait till mincha and ma'ariv. So
interesting. So let's tell all those that are busy napping on Shabbos afternoon.
Yeah, it's a perfect time, and that's what it was. I think that's if you really want to fulfill the custom properly, it's not about reading it; it's about saying it. It's about learning it.
Right. And
you gotta, and if it's gonna take you an hour to do, then do it before mincha, and then
do it properly.
Yeah.
Well, we could take this even a step further. So it's called Pirkei Avos, which is ethics of our fathers, and we spoke about that. It's really what parents teach their kids, what it means to be a mensch. So if a father or mother will learn Pirkei Avos Shabbos afternoon, the kids are anyway home from school, learn it with your kids. We'll get to the children's one, which is really interesting with stories and pictures. Even if you take one Mishnah, learn it with your kids, even if they're young, that can be very impactful. Sure. And it's great because the kids are home anyway.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
Right.
It's usually more interesting and practical than a lot of other things that we study with our kids. Of course. I would just say one thing that people can get lost on with all these books we're going to get through is that it's very important to start with the simple explanation of the Mishnah. And because even a simple explanation is not simple, especially with these Mishnayos. Right, exactly. And there's usually a lot of context and a lot of history behind it. But more so, it's often a stepping stone. You learn the explanation and then you're like, oh, but this guy explains the simple meaning differently. And then you can get into the esoteric and how they intertwine and the lessons that just spread out from there.
Right.
But sometimes with these books, it's catered to a certain type of
individual, I guess.
It's focused on a certain depth or certain slant, and then you can get lost in that and not understand. You can just be studying for an hour and not understand the actual meaning of the Mishnah.
Interesting. So, out of all of them, do you want to say yours first? Favorite?
I tell you honestly, I haven't read that many of these. I'll tell you which ones I have read and what I think. I've read this one. This is the Pirkei Avos Kahas one. See for the full review from your video. I think this is great for after you learn simple pshat.
Interesting.
You learn the parak well, know the Mishnah, let's say.
Right.
Because the translation here is very simple. It's not like those translations on the Chumash where it has context, and it's very simple translation. So if you're gonna just read the English and then do the commentaries, you're gonna get a great commentary, a great idea, but you won't necessarily see how it comes out in the Mishnah. Not all of it is like that. There are some that are very straightforward, but I always think that for this specifically, it's important you first understand the Mishnah and then you go. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. What's cool about this is that there's really so much to choose from, and maybe I guess it can get overwhelming because like with all the different departments in the bottom, the different sections and different things. So if you open it up, like you can easily, like you're saying, you can easily get distracted from the basic translation of the Mishnah and get caught up into a rabbit hole of a different theme before starting off with the basics.
Right, but it's probably the best one for Chassidus. If you want to learn like
it's the only one, really.
Yeah.
The only Pirkei Avos based on Chassidus and teachings of the Rebbe is this one.
Yeah. There's actually an earlier version
nice.
that I have. It's a white anyway. Okay. I never read this one. You tell me.
I took a look at this one, and this is probably my favorite. I haven't used this till I was preparing for this book review, and I fell in love with this one. I definitely going to buy it personally for myself. Rabbi Steinsaltz is all of his Svarim that we've reviewed, his Tanya, his Chumash, and his Pirkei Avos as well, are so professionally done, scholarly. Every line is fully loaded. It's so logical. Everything that it makes so much sense. Like it's really good. I personally love it. Another really nice thing about this that none of the other ones have is he incorporates the literal translation and elaborations, explanations within the text. So it's a one flow.
I like that.
The Chumashim, a lot of other Chumashim have it. The Kahas has that and others. But for the Pirkei Avos, he's the only one that has that. So if you want to just sit and read, you don't want to jump around to different sections and get a comprehensive overall understanding of the Mishnah, he's your best bet.
Awesome. It's a very interesting thing I realized is that there's actually different versions of Pirkei Avos of the actual words. Mm-hmm. Sometimes different books will have words added or words subtracted, or the number of the Mishnahs will change, or the order of the Mishnahs will change.
Oh,
it's very interesting. I mean, with Lubavitch, so we go by the Alter Rebbe Siddur. So over there, it's very he put it in the Siddur, and it's very exact what he did.
What do we have next?
Okay, Art Scroll.
Oh, this is really big. It's like over 400 pages.
On each Mishnah probably has like what 20? How many on each Mishnah? How many sections?
There's a line per page of Mishnah. I mean, the whole thing is commentary, which is great, and it's interesting. It's interesting. Not my style so much because it is an emphasis on Musar. So as a Chabad guy, I'm more into Chassidus. Right. But I actually find it inspiring and very interesting.
How's the translation? You think
it's basic, straightforward. Let's say you compare it to others that are a little bit more dated. It's very the literal translations are very similar.
When I looked at this, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Chumash, the stone Chumash.
Oh, the
style, yeah,
right.
Which I liked. I like that.
It's the same author, so not the same author.
It's the
same company. So there's systems that they keep to.
But I like that. There's specialized versions of things, and then there's generalized versions of things. So this is the generalized. If you want to get a taste of, what does the Jewish world as a whole say?
Right.
Not specifically niche.
Well, they have no Chassidus in here, so.
Oh, really? None? Not even one thing?
I mean, certainly not no Chabad Chassidus, but there's a little bit of like Simcha Bunim, Pshischa, and you have some of the Talmidei Magid here and there. So I can't say there's no. There is Chassidus.
I mean, there isn't. I know, and that's a fair point, especially when you have the Rebbe spoke Pirkei Avos at Farbrengens very often, right?
Right, of course.
Maybe not every Shabbos, but very often in the summer. Yeah. So it's kind of.
I mean, let's think about this a second. Who is the Rebbe? Probably shared the most Torah and the most commentary on Pirkei Avos than anybody else. Even if someone wrote a Pirush, let's think about this a second. If someone wrote a Pirush on Pirkei Avos, let's say the Medrash Shmuel, or even the Rambam, Pirush is in a book. It's this, right?
Rambam's pretty long.
The Rambam is pretty long. The Rebbe went ahead, besides elaborating on a lot of different Pirushim, but the Rebbe spoke hours and hours and hours on Pirkei Avos. So those were all printed.
Right, they did
in multiple volumes.
They did make a version
of the Rebbe's Biurim.
Of just Biurim, yeah.
Right.
2 books.
Did. If you would take all the sichos of the Rebbe, all the talks of the Rebbe on Pirkei Avos, from all the pages of the Likutei Sichos, that's a lot.
Yeah,
it is.
So listen, Art Scroll does take the Rebbe's stuff, the Rebbe's Torah in the Chumash and also in the Nach, which have been the Reuben edition. It's like the Stone edition, but just for Nach. They also have the Rebbe's Torah there. They have some from Sichos, from Maimarim.
Oh, wow. Yeah, cool.
And on the Rashi Chumash, they also have sometimes
on
the bottom. They write from.
What do they write? The Lubavitcher Rebbe?
Sichos, Sefer Maimarim.
Really? Wow, that's great.
Yeah. So I'd be surprised. I mean, it's a big book.
Okay, yeah.
If you work for Art Scroll, reach out to us. Let us know.
Yeah. Okay, fine. We'll have to read a little bit and a little bit more. Go through all 400 20 pages or something.
Okay, so let's do this one.
The next one, this is great. This is Beyond the Letter of the Law by Rabbi Yankee Talber. So it's not a pirush from Pirkei Avos. He takes 60 essays in different topics based on the teachings of the Rabbi. And what I like about Rabbi Yankee Talber is he's a phenomenal pen. Like the way he writes, things are very relatable, very practical, very down to earth. And he'll take, different topics like divine providence, or he'll take topics like marriage, business, from Pirkei Avos, from the teachings of the Rabbi, and write it in this really nice essay, and it's really good.
I like his the Inside Time series, Inside Story, right? That's his stuff. I like that very much. It's the same style, right?
Right.
It's the same.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
No, I'm saying I haven't read. I don't have this exact book, but knowing if it's the same author and the same style, it's beautiful. It's written well. It's concise enough that you can read it in one sitting, and he does have a higher level of writing than your average Chabad, English book, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it's geschmack. If you enjoy English and you enjoy the ideas, I think that it's definitely up there.
I would actually sit and learn the Inside Story with people one-on-one, like as a text-based, and we would discuss it.
Good JNet Chavrusa idea, by the way.
It's wonderful.
Buy the book,
it's based on the Parshas or based on Yom Tovim. They have it like you can buy a set of 3 now. Pick your topic before a theme on Shabbos, theme on any upcoming holiday. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
The only thing I dislike about this is that the font and the layout is a little bit dated. Like if we can revamp this, keep the text. Just the layout would be phenomenal.
Okay, fair point.
The next one is this is a cute book. The reason why I'm saying it's cute is because it's short. It's not the whole Pirkei Avos. He takes Rabbi Yossi Shanowitz. Mm-hmm. You read it?
I haven't read it. No.
He goes there, takes Mishnah, or theme in Pirkei Avos, and he writes a takeaway message in a very relatable, practical way. It actually originated, I was reading his introduction, it originated from his classes that he gave on Pirkei Avos.
Oh, yeah.
And people were asking, where do you get this from? Like, this is really good. So he said, the truth is, let me print my notes that he would use to prepare his classes. And then eventually turned into a book, which is great because everybody can enjoy his classes now, even though they're not sitting there.
It's like practical stuff. It's
very much.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, you have to remember the whole Pirkei Avos is well, not the whole, but most of it is very practical. Like it's teaching the person not only the mechanics of Judaism, the do's and don'ts, like we spoke about in the book review. You see the link for the video.
Yeah.
But this is how to become a better person, change your perspective. It's called Jewish ethics, right? So there's a lot of practical takeaways. And then he takes us even further in starting with Sinai in this book, where he gives practical real life examples, 2025, nice stories, parables. It's just phenomenal. And it's an easy read. You can sit on the couch.
Yeah.
It's great. The kids one, that is colorful. Every halacha is brought down with English, Hebrew, every Mishnah, I'm sorry. And with
I like their stories. They have a lot of stories.
The stories are great.
Yeah.
He has a source for everything in the back. Also, not only the Pirkei Avos, the Rambam and their Chumash. Not their Chumash. They're working on that.
They have a parsha. Yeah.
They do have one. Yeah, that's right. No, the parsha book is right, and their Tanya. So it's really good. Great inspiring stuff.
Yeah. Kids love it.
So what's your favorite Mishnah?
Okay, there's a lot of good Mishnahs, and I don't know if anyone specifically is a favorite, but I'll tell you a few that come to mind. First of all, the ability to take a deep concept and put it in short is amazing. You have in Pirkei Avos. And also, if you notice, some things are repeated by different sages, which obviously shows on its importance. For example, the idea of having a good friend or a good mentor is multiple times, I believe, in Pirkei Avos. So that's a very important part of being an upstanding person. If you don't have anyone if it's all about you and you don't have anyone to receive criticism, feedback, help you on your journey, then in a sense, Pirkei Avos really is that, right? It's there to help guide you with the wisdom of our sages. But in addition to that, you also need to have someone in real life, flesh and blood, to really help guide you. So that's something which I resonate with a lot. I'll tell you another thing So there's two quotes that are in Aramaic. There's more than two. There's at least two.
Oh, with the skull drowning?
Yeah,
That's
that one I never understood. I actually wanted. I was thinking we should look it
We'll
up.
look it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's one which is lefum gam lo shichna,
Right.
which means according to the donkey is the load. Not the donkey, the camel is the load. And the other one is lefum tzara agra. Is that in Pirkei Avos?
Yeah, of course.
It is, yeah. Lefum tzara agra, which means according to the pain is the reward, is the gain, right? Lefum gam lo shichna, according to the camel is the load, is it's very what's the word? It's empowering. Okay, Hashem has given me the exact load for me. He knows what I can handle, and that's what I'm going to handle.
So why are you the gummel? Why are you a
camel?
Why are you a camel?
It's like they say why is the camel asked his mother, why do we have these long eyelashes?
Okay.
To get rid of because in the desert there's a lot of sand. So, Mom, why are we in the zoo? Anyway, so I think that's very inspiring to know that it's a good perspective. Whenever you feel like you're overwhelmed, say, 1 second, I'm not overwhelmed. I have exactly the right amount, the right load for my back. I'm going to be able to handle it. And the other one, the Fum Tzara Agra, life is always ups and downs. Nothing's ever smooth. So you can be on a high and you'll be like, yes, this is great. And then other times you can be on a low, and you have to realize that they correlate, right? The more effort you're putting in, and the more you're persevering in the hard times, and you're when you have that challenge and you stand strong and you just get through it, you're gonna have much better up times. And like, for example, it's just a simple example. Marriage, right, is very challenging. There are certain times that's very challenging, right?
Are you talking from experience?
Perhaps, not necessarily.
Word on the street, huh?
No, but it's obvious. Okay, yes, I'm
kidding.
being married. Thank God.
Baruch Hashem.
So there are times that's challenging, right? So it's easy for a person to just say, what's it worth? But then you have times that it's really, really good, And those are the times you got to remember that this is it's you need both.
Right. It's easy to forget. It's not only in marriage and everything in life. It's easy to remember the hardships, and it's also very easy to forget the good times. Right. So they're connected, right?
Right. There's a lot of other good quotes. I mean, one is a famous one, which is that Lo yalach hamlach ligmar v'layata ben chayrin yikata. Yeah,
that helped me a lot in yeshiva.
Yeah, you want to explain?
I was overwhelmed. I was like 15, just starting. I was away from home, learning Gemara in depth, and you learn Iyun, which is in depth Gemara. It's endless. There's so many layers of depth that you can go deeper and deeper, and different mefarshim and commentaries. And I was very overwhelmed. I remember I was like, "This is impossible." And I was talking to my father, which is Rosh Hashiva and Chayvei Torah, teaches Gemara for over 50 years, right? And he was telling me this over and over again, that like you're not required and obligated to learn everything, because I'm a little perfectionist and I wanted to do it all the way and learn everything. Like, you don't have to. Not only do you have to, you're not supposed to, right? Because it's endless. You'll learn, you'll learn the Gemara a few times. And you're in depth, you'll learn some Mefarshim, Gemara Rashi Tesis, then you move on, and then maybe down the line you come back to it, which of course I did. Many Masechtas I've gone back to, later on, and so on, and that was very calming. Mm-hmm. You have to remember it's a balance, because you can get complacent too.
Well, there's the other side, which is that.
Yeah,
right? That doesn't mean that. You want to explain that?
Yeah. So first it says which means you're not obligated to finish all the work. Right? Which means, you do your best. But on the other side, immediately, right? It's the next word. It says, however, remember, loyata ben chayrin liyisbalta mimena.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. Which means that you're not, a free person that can just not work at all.
Right. You're not unemployed.
Right. You got to put in the effort, but don't get overwhelmed. That's the right balance, which is hard.
And then the end is, the one who's in charge of the business, the job, who gave you that job, he's going to make sure that you get paid what you're
right. So Hashem's going to take care of you. You put in the effort, you do your part, whatever you can do, you push yourself to your maximum potential, even though it's not everything, but Hashem.
I wish the people in yeshiva, the teachers, would know that as well before they give you these huge quotas. Okay.
Yeah, I one more experience with me in a real life experience. I was in yeshiva, I'm not going to say where, and so the shir, he explained the Maggid Shira. The teacher explained the over an hour, like a very complex part of Gemara. It was in what Masechta was it? It was probably Gittin. It was either Gittin, it was Gittin, or Baba Basra. Could be because the next year was Baba Basra. One of the two. Anyway, so I didn't really get the whole thing. It was really hard. And I think a lot of people in this year weren't, following. It was a hard sugi, it was whatever. After the lecture, the shir, I went over to the Rosh Yeshiva and I said, I didn't really understand. Can you explain it to me again? It was not the whole shir, of course, but a certain part. So he spent like 5-6 minutes explaining it to me. And I was a little slow. I still didn't get it. And I said, but like, I didn't say don't repeat it, but like I said, he asked a little bit of a different question. And obviously my question implied that I wasn't really following. So he's like, I think I am in the position right now of Eina Kaptan Malamed, which is from Pirkei Avos, that a person that gets upset, how would you translate Kaptan? Impatient, right? Can't be a teacher. So that's a general term. A person that gets easily impatient can't teach because they're going to lose patience with their students.
Right. But the story in the Gemara of someone who taught something like 400 times or something.
Wow.
Yeah, to someone.
Wow. So he told me, like, right now, I'm not going to repeat it. I can't. I feel like this right now. And I responded, in Habai Shalom, which is the next part of it, that if you're embarrassed, you're not going to be able to learn. You're going to be embarrassed to ask questions. You're going to show your ignorance. But he didn't buy. He says, come back later.
Honesty is good. It also speaks about honesty.
It's true. It's true.
I'll tell you, just switch a little bit gears. Another Pirkei Avos, which I think we just read last Shabbos, was about having mekabelas kol adam b'severi yaponim yafis. Right? You should greet everyone with a smile, greet everyone, with a pleasant demeanor. So it's something which I struggled with. I mean, depending on
smiling? You have a beautiful
I'm
smile.
a happy guy. Baruch Hashem. I love meeting people, but sometimes you're just in a bad mood.
Mm-hmm.
Or you live in a place like New York where no one says hi to anyone. You ever notice that? Like, I grew up in Australia, and you walk by the street, someone you never met before, but it's Shabbos, you say good Shabbos. It's just the way it is. And then I came here and I started saying good Shabbos, and I realized every block you're saying good Shabbos 10 times. So I guess that's why maybe. But New York is known for like.
Well, wait a second. There's good Shabbos, which I feel like is a little bit more common, and then there's good morning on a random Tuesday to someone not part of your community. In New York,
but let's say you come to the office and you see someone. You should say good morning. You know who they are. They're your coworker, right? Or even if it's the janitor, you should say good. Anyway, right. So that's something I've been trying to work on.
I think as New Yorkers, we could learn from the Australians and manners and.
Yeah, it's from
Pirkei Avos.
Yeah, and it doesn't say only your friends. It says it's called Adam, everyone.
Right. One more thing comes to mind. I think we're going to end with this. Perek Lamed, chapter 30 of Tanya, is what the Alter Rebbe does there so brilliantly. The Alter Rebbe talks about humility. And you should be humble in the face of everybody and every person, not even Jews, in front of every single person. Should I rephrase that? Adam ha'adam. There's two gersais, there's two versions. Mm-hmm. And so the Alter Rebbe basically does is he takes two Mishnahs. There's one Mishnah in Pirkei Avos that says you shouldn't judge a person until you walk in their shoes, right? And the other one is you should be shval ruach, you should be humble in the presence of everybody. And he connects the two. In Perek Lamed, in chapter 30, he basically says that because you don't know what really goes on in their minds and heart, you don't know what they're experiencing, right? Because you can't judge someone till you walk in their shoes, you're never going to walk in their shoes. He actually writes it really beautifully. I looked at Mishnah up over here in Rabbi Shanowitz's book, that there's a lot of components. Even if you have the same job as them or the same life experience as them, you have a different way you deal with stress as them. You have a different relationship with your family as him. You'll never be in their shoes ever. And because of that, the Alter Rebbe says you can never know what person's challenges are, and therefore you should always be humble. Because their challenge may be much harder than you. And even if they're failing, if you had the same struggle that they had, you would be failing much more. That's why you should be humble. I found that really fascinating.
It's like, first of all, that means that idea, that in the Mishnah says, don't judge your friend until you are in his place. It's kind of rhetorical because you're never going to be in his place.
Right.
So never judge your friend.
Right? That's exactly what it means. Yeah.
Like, it actually means...
Right? It means never judge your friend.
And that idea of humility you're saying, it sounds very similar to the idea of, we say that Moshe Rabbeinu was the most humble person because everyone every one of his talents, he thought that if Hashem had given it to someone else, they would have done a much better job. Right. So this is like the flip of that, which is, if I was in his situation, I would not be handling it as well.
Right. We highly recommend taking one of them, maybe multiple of the different Pirkei Avos that we have here today, and learning it. And really, we should all try to adapt a little bit of those lessons of Pirkei Avos.
It's not. You don't only have to learn on Shabbos afternoon.
Right.
And not only in the summer, you can learn it. And maybe one thing a week. Try to take to
one Mishnah. Practically.
Or even one idea, one line.
There you go. Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.